This is Thank You Mama weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Here is a funny story. When I was in primary school, I remember being jealous of my friends who had a simple answer to the question, what is your mom's profession? You know, the kids who would say, my mom is a waitress, my mom is a cook, or my mom is a nurse. Because my mom was a film actress, a very famous film actress, but mom also had a day job. She went to an office every day and she worked as a graphic designer for a school newspaper or a magazine. But on top of that, mom also designed jewelry. She illustrated children's books and won awards with that. So mom was a very multifaceted, interesting person. But what's really funny is when you're a kid and you're just born into this, you take it for granted. You don't think, oh, mom is so exciting and interesting. But that's normal. That's who mom just is. And sometimes you wish mom was a little bit more straightforward a person. It's funny because now, of course, I am extremely grateful for her being such a fantastic role model and also nurturing my different interests and my curiosity. And she really always told me to not allow myself to be labeled and to try many different things and be many different things and juggle different projects at the same time. So it's interesting that we have now interviewed 165, and it's the first time that a guest mentioned this as a lesson. Zeva Bellel's mom told her, just go and be interesting. Become an interesting person. Follow your interest. See where they take you. Don't get hooked on a specific goal because it seemed right to others, but think about choices that would expand your perspective and your personality. It's fascinating that this is the first time we heard this, and I think it's a very interesting lesson. I do know that we're not all multi-talented like my mom. I am definitely not. And I don't necessarily think in the direction, especially as a mom, of, oh, just go and follow your passion. It doesn't matter what you do. I think I'm a little too old and became too down to earth for that. But I want to think in the direction of our various interests, us as human beings. Do we cultivate our interests? Did we even identify them? Do we trust them and dare to follow them? Do we allow ourselves to be curious and follow this curiosity? You know, I wonder if this attitude in life does add to the quality of life and well-being. And do we want to inspire this in our children? Do we want to raise children to be interested, curious, and thus interesting people by cultivating these curiosities and interests? So many interesting questions. Zeva also shares many other interesting and inspiring lessons. Enjoy your listening. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Tyler. My guest today is Zeva Bellel. Zeva is joining us from Paris, but she's originally from New York. And 25 years ago, she left New York to move to Paris, became a marketing director at Yelp. But then in 2018, Zeva decided to become a coach. So she is now a career leadership coach and also host of a podcast called On Becoming. And I just learned Zeva is also a mom of 2 boys.
Yes.
Hi, Zeva. Welcome.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. We've been planning this for quite a while, haven't
We
we?
have, we have. I know. It's the culmination of many email exchanges.
Many email exchanges between New York and Paris and Vienna and
Right. Time
travels
zones,
and things, but here we
seasons.
are.
Here we are.
I'm very excited to talk
Me
to you.
too. Me too.
Ziva, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me your story and your journey and how did it all develop and how did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my story is complex and simple at the same time. Since I was a little girl, I grew up. So I grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn. And from a very young age, for some reason, I felt like I wasn't meant to be where I am. And I somehow had this idea, an image of me living my life or, kind of having a portion of my life lived in Paris. And so that was kind of like the red thread in many ways of a lot of the decisions that I made. The choice of studying French. I eventually came to Paris when I was 16 for the first time, and then I got 18, and then I decided to do my junior year abroad when I was in college, here for 6 months, and eventually at 25, I left everything, my life in New York, which included a boyfriend and 4 cats and an apartment and my whole family and friends and all that whole ecosystem. And I came to Paris, and that was 25 years ago. And I just turned 50 this year. So last year,
Congratulations.
20,
I did
thank
too.
you.
Isn't it
Ah,
fabulous?
happy birthday. It is.
Thank you.
It's a nice, it's a
Great.
chunky number.
It is.
And so yeah, so it's half of my life has been here and half in America, which is I think really a very symbolic way to describe who I am because I really do feel like I'm a collection of those parts, the American parts and the French parts or the European parts. And what I do right now, I've had several careers since I've been in France. At first, I was a journalist for 10 years, then I worked for Yelp as a marketing director for 7 years, and then my last professional era has been as a coach, where I've been working with women specifically who are at complex career transitions where they are having somewhat of an identity crisis as it pertains to the way that they contribute their time, their creativity, their intellect, their emotions. And I decided to do this work because I felt that there were moments in my own path where I could have really used a sounding board to make sense of my desires, like my deep desires. And I mean, I found ways to get the support that I needed or to find the answers myself. But I think that sometimes it's a really difficult mix of questions, and we have a hard time grasping, that thread that's going to kind of reveal what we really want because there's a lot of expectations. Maybe we've invested in a part of our identity and it seems really scary to imagine something else. As a woman, also, frequently, maybe we're caring for other human beings and focusing on ourselves seems really risky. So I think I find it to be a very fascinating jumble of desires and fears and doubts. And my mission really is to help women kind of have the space to feel secure and safe, unraveling that whole sack and really kind of feeling their way forward in terms of what makes sense for them for the future.
I have a question. I had quite a few coaches as guests, and this never occurred to me, but I'm curious. Many of us have friends or family who can help us. How is it different working with a coach, working with somebody who's not a friend or a family and helps you? you mentioned untangle identity crisis or any other. My last guest was a reinvention coach, and she helps women to who get stuck in their lives to reinvent their lives and their careers.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different?
I think it's all the difference. I have wonderful people who are incredibly wise and benevolent and love me dearly. And their support and guidance is precious to me. That said, I think that there's always a part of ourselves that we are maybe holding back when we are connecting with the people closest to us because they do have, maybe there's an image of us, there's an expectation that we are kind of subconsciously trying to maintain. I mean, I do also have friendships where I feel like I can let the guard down and it's incredibly precious. But, what do you have like a half hour, an hour at a specific time in someone's busy life, in your busy life? It's hard to really just like let it all out and let it all go over an extended period of time where you're focusing on something specific and you're investing your energy in really trying to grasp at the pieces of the puzzle that are allowing you to really blossom and unfold into yourself. And I think that there's one aspect in terms of like maybe finding the time, really making that the focus of what you're going to be speaking about, being able to reveal all parts of yourself and not worry about how you're going to be judged. And, sometimes people also think like, well, you've got this. They try to support you by, saying like, but it's not that bad. Like you've got this and this and this. And are you really sure? And what about the risks? And working with a coach, and I have to say like a coach that you feel like you can fully open up to. I think that the trust factor is, potentially the most important aspect of a fulfilling journey between a coach and their client. There has to be this sense of like, I can really explore places that even I haven't been to yet with this person. I don't feel like I'm going to be judged. I don't feel like I'm going to have to restrict myself. And to have a space that you're investing in, because it costs money. You're investing your money, you're investing your time, you're investing your mental and emotional energy. You're creating like this, this really kind of sacred space in a way to unfold and to have someone who is not invested in a particular outcome. I'm there to just be along for the ride.
Yeah. But also
whatever happens.
someone I'm guessing who has tools, because when
Oh
you
yeah,
get trained as a
absolutely.
coach, you
Yeah.
have these tools. And I speak to my friends who have coaches, and they're like, it seems so simple, but it's so fantastic. It's so helpful.
Yes, having the tools and having the contract where everyone knows the role that they're expected to perform within a specific kind of relationship.
Ziva, before we talk about mom, just a quick question about your transition. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it rings so many bells to me, feeling from childhood on that you should be somewhere else. It sounds so familiar to me. My somewhere else turned out to be many different places. I thought it would be maybe one, but not. Are you happy with how it all turned out? Because you had such a specific idea of Paris. Did it fulfill your
Oh yeah.
expectations and dreams?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like far surpassed my expectations and dreams, but I realized that my expectations and dreams were somewhat cliched and limited. I had a lot of like
Of course, yeah.
fantasies of being, at the Sorbonne and like having, beret, like walking around with a beret and like a
And
baguette all the time.
baguette, yeah, on the bicycle, yeah.
I mean, although I did definitely in the beginning kind of like, try those on, and they were fun. But I think that when I boil it all down, and it's still like in a way, like the mystery of my existence. I don't know if I'll ever really understand it. Um, I feel more myself here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I don't really know why.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
I
is.
feel like that with Vienna. I understand that.
It's just
Yeah.
like
It's just like, yeah.
you
And in
can't
my
really explain
heart,
it.
I'm still Croatian. I feel very deeply Croatian, and but
Mhm.
somehow Vienna's home. And this is a weird clash in my identity that's, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that there's like this
Yeah.
kind of mystery to why certain places make you feel that way. Is there
Mm,
some kind of one day there will be like the curtain will be drawn and I'll
yeah.
finally understand it, like, ah.
This is why.
But there's so many things. There's so many things that I love about it. I love how beautiful the city is. It's just every you turn the corner, it's like, oh, the cobblestones, the door frames, I mean, I
Mm,
don't love how overcast it is all the time.
mm,
But just the way the people look, the attention that they pay to detail, their appreciation and defense of their culture and the refineries of things, but at the same time how cosmopolitan it is and how culturally diverse it is. I love it all.
mm. Let's talk about Mama Karen.
Yes.
Tell me about her and about her life before we jump into her lessons.
Oh, Mama Karen. So Mama Karen is the eldest of five daughters. So um, she was raised to be a little bit of the mama of the lot
Mm-hmm.
already.
Mm-hmm.
She's an incredibly generous, nurturing, loving, caring person. Her name is Karen, and she's caring. I just realized that. But yeah, she's like a caretaker. Her joy is remembering people, celebrating them. She has like a calendar of every person's birthday in my life, and she reminds me
Mm.
like a day or two before their birthday, like, "Hey, it's your friend Bruce's birthday. It's your friend Tamara's birthday." Yes, so she comes from this big family of girls, and she also has a bunch of cousins. Like, family is very, very important to her. Very big, very important.
Also from
Growing,
Brooklyn?
also from Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So she grew up in a section of Brooklyn called Mill Basin,
Mm-hmm.
kind of near Canarsie, and she was very into classical music and ballet. She's a little bit of like a romantic. Like she's kind of always been drawn to things that seem a little bit, in my opinion, out of step with contemporary culture. She's a little bit of a offbeat in that way. Like she grew up in the 60s. She could have been at Woodstock. She was not at Woodstock. She could, like she
Mm-hmm.
could have been
Mm-hmm.
more of like a into pop culture, Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff. Like there are a lot of things that were happening during her childhood, like, big cultural movements that she was just not a part of. She was a little bit more of in her mind, in her interests. She would go to watch the New York City Ballet dancers rehearse, and she would sketch them. She would go into the city on her own, and she would do that. And she was probably like 16,
Mm-hmm.
and listen to classical music. So a little bit of a kooky lady, a
Mm-hmm.
kooky kid. But she wound up becoming an art teacher. That's where she met my dad. And then she became a commercial artist at my family's printing press. My family owned a printing press in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that until she kind of retired a little bit early. She and my stepdad bought a house up in Woodstock. And
So she did end up in Woodstock.
she did end up, right. She did end up in Woodstock. I know. You're very, yes, very observant. She did eventually there was there. And she does have somewhat of a hippie alternative part of her as well. And so she has this house up in Woodstock that she now lives in full time, and she now has like an allergy to Manhattan, and
She
she
does
can't
not want to go back.
no, 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 no.
How
She
many
likes her
children did she
birds.
have?
So just me. I'm
Oh,
an
just
only
you.
child.
You like me. You're an only child. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And she, as I hear, there's a stepdad. So she got divorced and remarried.
Yes. So she had a very quick first marriage, and then she married my dad, and then they separated, and then she met Alan, who
Mm-hmm.
is my stepdad, and so he's been in my life since I was around 9 years old, nine,
Oh,
10 years old.
okay. Let's learn from her. What do you feel are the most important things you've learned from her?
I think from the time I was little, she really cultivated in me this the direction was not go and pursue a particular path. It was go and become an interesting person. And, she's an interesting person. I think that she mirrored that back to me. She doesn't necessarily do things in the conventional way. Kind of like be interesting, do interesting things, and cultivate my interests, and don't necessarily get hooked on where what that means practically. Just enjoy becoming interested in things, and that's definitely served me and has guided me. When I feel a subject is a source of fascination, I just let myself get into it. I just like be like, okay, I'm drawn to this right now. Let me see where that takes me.
But tell me about budget, because you mentioned budgeting and it's very interesting. I always ask women at the end of the interview what they wish they learned from their mothers, what they wish their mothers taught them. And one of the things that comes up most often is financing and
Oh,
dealing with
wow.
money. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that this was your first lesson you mentioned. Tell
Yes.
us about it.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, so my parents separated when I was 3 and eventually divorced further down the line. And apparently my dad would send some money to my mom as childcare, alimony. And at some point, my mother just was like, you know what? I'm going to give you this money. It's going to be yours to budget and manage. So, I mean, she didn't do that when I was 3. It was
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
more like 10.
Hmm.
She just like kind of like handed that money over to me, and she was like, "You're going to go and select clothes."
Did you ever talk to her about this? Why she decided to try to make you independent
Yeah, we've talked
financially?
about it. Well,
Hmm.
her dad did an exceptional job
Hmm.
teaching all of his 5 daughters how to manage money, how to
Hmm.
save money, how to invest in money.
Oh, wow.
And they're all very, very wise with their money, and have never been limited, I would say.
Hmm.
Never been, maybe that was the lesson, was I think he wanted, having 5 girls was like, in order to be fully free, you need to have money. You need to be wise with your
Yeah.
money. And it became like somewhat of a non-issue. Like, money is not something that is like a big subject. It's just everyone is financially
Figuring it
safe.
out. Yeah.
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 Independent. Oh, that's
Mhm.
fantastic.
And no
It's
one
a,
is like huge
yeah,
spenders. No,
but
it's not
safe.
like it's not a
Mm-hmm.
flashy
Mm-hmm.
group. But there's money for oneself. There's money
Yeah.
to be generous. There's money to contribute back to society. My mom is she gives a lot to charity. If she ever finds out about such and such a cause, at the end of the year, she's given lots of money away before, the
Mm-hmm.
tax,
Mm-hmm.
tax limitations. So she's yeah. There's a very much a feeling of being a responsible caretaker your finances for yourself, for the people you care about, and for the causes you want to invest in.
I love this lesson so much, and I love it how it needs to travel through generations. I love it that her dad taught them and then she taught you. And I really love how once you're wise with money, money's not an issue. I really want to remember this. This is so, it's not about abundance and I don't know, luxury, but it's about money not being a worry. Maybe let's put it that way.
Yeah, a handicap. I see. I
Yeah.
mean, I see that often with my clients, or and friends too. That like what is frequently the thing that as a woman restricts us is
Dependence.
financial
Yeah.
dependence,
Yeah.
and maybe
Absolutely.
like not making a decision because financially it's not possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that that's something that was not even in my consciousness until meeting other people outside of my family, where I think it's much more dominant than what I was exposed to growing up.
So important. Let's talk about the last lesson quickly. We only have a few more minutes left
Yeah.
before, and I want to ask also if there was anything you wish she had taught you. But let's talk about the last lesson.
So the last lesson was I was about to get married, and I was in a job that I really had a hard time with. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel respected. I didn't feel free. And I was speaking to my mom, and she was asking me about work, and I was just like, it's just miserable. I can't stand it. And she, in a nutshell, was like, Ziva, she's like, I just worry that you don't feel like you deserve better. And even now, like when I say it, it's like, it takes like the wind out of me. And she was right. It was like there was something in me where I didn't feel like I didn't deserve better. And she said, you will always be safe. You'll never live under a bridge. And sometimes you need to take a leap before you know where you're headed. And taking, you'll figure it out. But staying in a place where you're not valued, because you don't feel like you deserve better, that's not gonna condone that. And I mean, she didn't say it exactly that, but she was like, "This is what I think." And so when I got back from my honeymoon, first thing I did was I quit.
I love it. And this has served you from then on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Let me quickly ask you anything you wish she had taught you.
I mean, I think she taught me really fundamental things. One thing that I think I've had to learn myself is how to speak about hard things, how to speak about hard emotional things. Find the language for that, find it in my body, find it, I think there was also like a generational thing too. As opposed to maybe just bottling it up and kind of moving on. I think that that's been my challenge, is to find the resources to feel safe speaking about things that are maybe not working out or that are difficult.
If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyoumama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider, that's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.